Congratulations, you finally made it. But not to where they think you made it. No, you didn't make it. Because of numbers, or money, or followers, or applause. You made it because the version of you they used to manipulate is dead. You'll never be that easy again. Not after what you saw, not after who you had to become, just to survive your own kindness. You learned the hard way. Some people don't want peace. They want control wrapped in compliments. They want access disguised as loyalty. They want to monitor your light while praying for a short circuit. But that version of you, the one that over-explained, over-loved, over-fought, over-gave, terminated, that wasn't growth. That was warfare. You were under siege, in silence, and nobody even noticed your body was missing from your own life. You were showing up like a soldier while everyone else was there for brunch. And now you don't even blink the same. You watch people's energy like it's a case study. You hear tone before words. You see motive before the smile even lands. That's what surviving betrayal does. It sharpens your soul until it's weaponized, not for violence, but for recognition. You see through everything now, because when you were at your weakest, they saw an opportunity, and that's all you needed to know. They didn't offer shelter, they offered surveillance. They didn't protect your name. They built a narrative, a version of you that was safe for them to judge, while you were silently bleeding. And still, you didn't snap. You learned. You learned how to shut your mouth and open your eyes. You learned that the real villain wasn't the betrayal. It was how long you defended the ones who caused it. That's why they're afraid now. Because the same person they used to manipulate through guilt now looks them in the face and doesn't flinch. You don't beg. You don't plead. You don't even explain. You just move different. Like a ghost they swore they buried. Only now it walks with documents. You don't need revenge, because your absence is terrifying enough. You don't need closure, because your clarity is lethal, and they feel it. Every time you stay silent when you used to scream, every time you walk away from the conversations they used to trap you in, every time you decline the invite, ignore the guilt, refuse the bait, they feel the upgrade. They feel the version of you that doesn't need permission to be at peace. The version that doesn't prove, chase, or soften your power to make others comfortable. That's the version they can't reach anymore. Because you outgrew manipulation. You outgrew emotional contracts. You outgrew tolerating toxicity, disguised as tradition. You learned the art of disappearing. Not to escape, but to rebuild where they couldn't find you. You created your next chapter in silence, in privacy, with receipts. And now that it's public, it's too late for them to revise the story. Because the version of you they thought was the final draft was just the preface. You walked through fire, and instead of burning, you became indistinguishable from it. That's why congratulations are in order. Not for the success, not for the glow-up, not for the accolades, but because you finally made it to a version of yourself that doesn't negotiate with snakes, just to prove you're not venomous. You made it to the level where peace is no longer a performance. It's a boundary enforced by silence. And guess what? You'll never be that easy again. Never again will you shrink so someone else can feel tall. Never again will you explain to people who already decided who you were. Never again will you overstay your spirit in a room your energy already evacuated. You made it. And not only did you make it, you did it without burning bridges. You just stopped carrying people who were secretly holding lighters. That's the kind of elevation they don't clap for. Because deep down, they know they don't have access to this version, has seen the blade from every angle and learned to smile while bleeding, to stay quiet while hunted, to rebuild with one hand while holding your soul in the other. That's not resilience. That's reincarnation. They were betting on your breakdown, but instead, you became the lesson they'll never forget. Because every time they try the same tactics again, they remember the one person who didn't just survive it. You decoded it. You evolved past it. You became proof that power, real power, doesn't scream. It stands still and watches the weak make noise to distract from their fear. You made it, and from now on, no one touches you without permission from the universe itself. Because now, you don't just walk different, you register as a threat without ever lifting a finger. See, it's not your voice that echoes anymore. It's your absence. It's the way silence now wraps around your presence like a loaded gun with the safety off. They feel it in rooms you're not even in. They mention your name with caution, not because you're violent, but because you hold memories like evidence. You didn't just make it. You exited the algorithm they used to control you. They don't know how to reach you anymore because every version of you they trained on, outdated. You upgraded like pain was a software patch. You walked through every lie like it was a hallway of broken mirrors. And you didn't flinch once. Because now, you know the reflection was never the truth. It was the mask they made you wear just to keep their ego intact. But those days, done. You're not dimming. You're not explaining. You're not asking anyone to believe in your comeback. Because there's nothing to come back from when you were never gone. You were underground. You were reprogramming. You were rewriting the contract with your own blood. And now that you're back, it's not for revenge. It's for alignment. You didn't make it to prove them wrong. You made it because you stopped letting pain be your prison warden. You took the scars and used them as coordinates. You don't look for closure anymore. You are the closure. You don't seek validation anymore. You're the blueprint they're all copying in silence. You're not emotional. You're strategic. And that confuses them because they were counting on your breakdown. They were addicted to your reactions. They needed the version of you who would flinch, argue, explain, weep, beg. But now, you've made it to a version of yourself who knows the game board. And the moment they play fake pity or reverse psychology, you just tilt your head and smile, like a sniper who's already locked in. This is the level where they call you cold. But really, you're just unreachable. Because you've made peace with the fact that some people only loved you when you were losing. Some only clapped when they felt superior. Some only checked in to measure your collapse. And once you realized that, it was never hate. It was never envy. It was dependence. They depended on your confusion. They depended on your softness. They depended on your inability to walk away. But now you're not just walking, you're gliding, unbothered, unreachable, unmatched. Because when you made it, you didn't just rise. You deleted access. You became private property. They can watch, they can study, they can try to replicate the formula, but they can't touch this frequency anymore. Because this isn't healing, this is dominion. This is what happens when someone chooses truth over tradition, self over story, power over pity. You didn't evolve to be liked, you evolved to be undeniable. Now you walk into rooms and people adjust, not because you demand respect, but because their spirit remembers who you are, even if their ego pretends to forget. And the best part, you don't need them to understand anymore. You don't even need them to regret. Because where you're headed, understanding is a luxury, and regret is their responsibility. You've got new battles now, not for survival, but for legacy. You made it out the labyrinth, not by following their maps, but by burning them. And from the ashes, you didn't just crawl out. You stepped forward like a myth in motion, carrying every lesson, every betrayal, every scar. And somehow you still came out cleaner than the people who tried to bury you. That's what real arrival looks like. Unannounced, unbothered, unforgettable. And you'll never be that easy again. Because now, your presence feels like a warning label they forgot to read. You walk in silence, but the air shifts like it's decoding a prophecy. Every move you make feels illegal to the ones who thrived on your confusion, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you've become something they never thought you'd live long enough to become. Untouchable. You didn't just survive what they threw at you. You incinerated it, studied the ashes, and built a blueprint they'll never access. That's the part that breaks them quietly. Not that you healed, but that your healing made you sharp, unforgiving, unreachable, unmistakably dangerous to any system that feeds off the naive. You used to ask, why? Now you just watch. You used to give second chances. Now you give no access. You used to doubt yourself. Now they doubt themselves in your presence. That's the evolution. See, you don't announce power. Power announces you. The shift was never public. It was internal. You didn't post a rebirth. You became the storm quietly. And they only noticed when the ground started shaking under their lies. That's why they're rattled. Because you don't tell them what hurts anymore. You just watch who shows up to reload it. You're no longer the wounded. You're the evidence that survival can be so refined. It becomes artillery. You learned how to weaponize stillness, how to use detachment as a blade, how to say nothing and let that silence feel like a verdict. You don't clap back. You let time do the screaming. You let success write the response in a language only the guilty can read. They feel it now. Every moment they second-guess themselves in rooms they once dominated. Every time they try to spin the story, but realize no one's listening anymore. Because you stopped explaining. And when you stopped explaining, they started exposing themselves. That's the ultimate trap you set, without saying a word. And let's talk about that silence. That thick, invisible, untouchable silence that follows you like a trained beast. It used to be where your voice died. Now it's where your power lives. You walk into spaces, and the people who once handled you casually suddenly feel naked around you. Why? Because you see too much now. You remember too clearly, and you're no longer emotionally available to make their guilt feel comfortable. You upgraded, not because you had something to prove, but because they gave you no other fucking choice. You made it because you were forced to become your own closure, your own defense attorney, your own last lifeline in a courtroom where truth was always on trial. But you didn't just win. You rewrote the law. Now, you don't forgive quickly. You study motives like crime scenes. You don't move on. You move above. You rise like a sealed document. Top secret. Eyes only. Access denied. And what kills them most? You're still kind. But now, your kindness has clauses. Your attention is vetted. Your energy is gated. Your presence, it's membership only. And they got banned. Because let's be honest, they weren't afraid of you when you were broken. They were afraid of the version of you who would finally wake up to the pattern. And now that you've woken up, you don't just recognize the game. You own the board, and baby, you built your throne out of every brick they threw at you when you were too polite to throw them back. Congratulations? No. This ain't a celebration. This is a eulogy for the weak version of you they depended on. The soft one, the scared one, the over-explaining, over-giving, over-feeling one. Dead, gone, buried beneath a battlefield that you now walk across like a general who doesn't bleed anymore. And from this point forward, you're not just hard to reach. You're impossible to unseat. Because now, you don't just carry power. You carry proof. Proof that someone can get dragged through psychological warfare, choked by invisible contracts, surrounded by snakes smiling like saints, and still come out undefeated, with a grin sharp enough to cut glass. See, there was a time you would have apologized for that grin, for the intensity in your gaze, for the sudden silence in your presence, for becoming a mirror that exposes intentions without a word. But now you know better. Now you let that silence stretch. You let the discomfort bloom. You let them trip over their own guilt in the stillness you once feared. Because the game has changed. You're not trying to be understood. You're watching who mistranslates you on purpose. You're not trying to be liked. You're watching who only liked you when you were easy to handle. You're not proving your heart anymore. You're protecting it like classified intel. And that's the real win, isn't it? Not the claps, not the applause, not the DMs that start with, "I always believed in you." No, the real win is knowing you'll never again betray yourself just to be palatable. They thought the goal was fame, success, recognition. But for you, the goal was always freedom, the kind of freedom that can't be bought. Because you earned it in silence, in lonely nights where your soul was screaming and no one noticed the volume. That's where the new you was born. Not in the spotlight, but in the dark. In those hours where you stared at yourself in the mirror and had to admit, this pain isn't temporary. It's the price of evolution. And you paid it in full. Not with money, but with versions of yourself you had to bury. Versions that trusted too fast, loved without armor, gave without receipts, waited for people to notice you're bleeding instead of learning how to cauterize the wound yourself. But now, you're the surgeon, you're the scalpel, you're the healer and the fucking storm. They call it cold. You call it clarity. Because you're no longer a participant in every emotional hostage situation someone tries to disguise as love. You're no longer flattered by attention from people who couldn't handle your isolation. You're no longer drained by conversations that circle back to the same cycles they refuse to break. Because the you that needed them is dead, and the you that replaced it don't even flinch when they walk in. You're not interested in revenge. You're not interested in pity. You're not even interested in reconnecting. You're interested in dominance over your own nervous system, over your energy, over your peace, over the portal you've now become. Because your life isn't just a testimony, it's a trigger. To the ones who remember what they did to you. To the ones who watched and stayed silent. To the ones who used your confusion as camouflage. You didn't make it to the finish line. You erased the old track altogether. Now you move like a rumor they wish wasn't true. They whisper now. They stutter around your name. They edit your history because they can't digest your present. You don't have to lift a finger. Your existence is the evidence. Your upgrade is the verdict. And every time you walk away, from the fight, from the drama, from the bait, they feel it. They feel that sting they used to laugh off. They feel that distance they can't cross. They feel that door that used to be cracked open, now bolted from the inside. And you sleep well. Because now, finally, you've made it to the one place they never wanted you to reach. The version of yourself that no longer needs them to lose for you to win. You're not bitter, You're bulletproof, and they'll never see that old version of you again. Because even if you walked into the same room, with the same clothes, same voice, same smile, you're not there. Not really. What's there now is a masterpiece stitched from chaos, a soul sculpted from detachment, a presence made of unapologetic peace, a warning wrapped in elegance, and you'll never be that easy again. Because the version of you that once waited to be seen has vanished into legend. What stands here now, unshaken, unbothered, untouchable, isn't someone looking for closure. It's someone who became the fucking lock. You're the checkpoint they can't bypass, the riddle they can't decode, the frequency their projections can't reach anymore. You used to be an open book. Now you're a classified document, sealed by experience, guarded by intuition, and unreadable to anyone who only valued you when you were bleeding. They talk about strength like it's a volume knob. But you turned it into a survival mechanism, and then you refined it into a language only the healed can understand. You walk different, not because you're trying to look powerful, but because you know the cost of ever handing your softness to someone who only sees it as leverage. You're not above people. You're just done shrinking for ones who can't handle your full dimension. They say, you changed. Damn right. You mutated. You evolved. You dismantled your former self just to rebuild as someone they can't guilt, gaslight, or ghost. And now they call it ego. They call it distance. They call it fake. Because it's easier to insult what they no longer have access to than admit. They fumbled the rarest soul they'll never hold again. You didn't make it by accident. You didn't make it for show. You made it because you stopped auditioning for roles in other people's delusions. You stepped off the stage. You walked out of the circus. You erased the script and became the author. And that's why you'll never be that easy again. Not to reach, not to shake, not to play. Because you made it, and now you own every inch of your name. The applause isn't loud, the crowd isn't big, but the peace is thunderous. And that is the kind of victory that doesn't need a round of claps, because it's echoing inside you every time you breathe without flinching. Congratulations. You didn't just survive. You ended the bloodline of betrayal that lived inside you. And that's the most dangerous kind of freedom anybody can ever witness, especially when they were betting on you never making it out. But you did. And now, they'll never forget what it looks like when a soul decides to stop bleeding and starts building instead.